So I had a football coach back in high school who was also one of my favorite teachers for a semester. He told us one story that freaked us all out pretty bad. He told us he had a coaching job at a small college in Montana when he was a lot younger and newly married. He said that after practice one evening, he was making his long commute home, and the route ran along just fields and fields of hay and grain and whatever is just in small rural towns. Since it was late summer and early fall, it wasn't even approaching dark yet. His car was an old, beat-up truck with just a bench seat. Anyway, he's driving along when he sees a hitchhiker on the shoulder. This being back in the day, in a small town in Montana, my teacher pulled over to let the guy in without a second thought. The man was described as wearing a really old, outdated style of suit. Now, it was not quite a zoot suit, but styled in a similar baggy way. He also had a big, stylish hat. This guy looked like he was out of the 40s, and sort of like a pimp. My teacher thought it was weird that he was so overdressed, it being super hot out, but maybe that was the only clothing he had. So the guy gets in next to my teacher without a word. Teacher asks him where he needs to go, and the guy just points forward, so the teacher just drove on. Later my teacher tried talking to the guy, just trying to make simple conversation, but the guy wouldn't speak or even acknowledge him. He just pulled his hat down like he was sleeping. Out of nowhere, the guy just tips up his hat, looks at the window and says, "Stop the car now." My teacher pulls over and lets him out, not wanting to offend a possibly crazy man. The guy stands on the side of the road for a second, and then at a dead sprint just runs off into a field beside the road until my teacher couldn't see him anymore. Granted, the crop was fairly tall. So he waits there for a while, thinking maybe the guy had the runs or something and didn't want to near the road. After a long enough wait, my teacher gets back in the truck and starts to accelerate back onto the road. The thing about really old trucks is that they don't accelerate very fast. As my teacher got back on the road, he looked in his rearview mirror to check for a safe merge, but there wasn't a car in sight. What there was the hitchhiker, on all fours, like an animal, running, crawling after the truck at an inhuman speed. Meanwhile, my teacher is beginning to fishtail as he attempts to go faster, the whole time his eyes glued on the mirror, watching the man chase after his car. Eventually, he was able to get up to speed and lose sight of the guy in his mirror. When he was able to stop at a gas station to use a payphone, he called his wife at home to tell her the story and to lock up the house. She thinks he's just messing with her, and he had been talking to her coworker about the hitchhiker. When he asked why she would think that, apparently at her office in town she worked in, one of her coworkers told her a story of the exact same thing that happened to them, and is a well-known urban legend in that town. She thought it was just folks playing with that new girl at work who had to drive home alone that night. Anyways, my teacher assured her that he was not lying, and she evidently believes him and can vouch for her side of the story because she showed up to one of her fundraisers and asked about it. So yeah, now I just avoid lonely roads in Montana. A lot of you are asking where this happened. I don't think he ever actually told us, but for some reason, I'm leaning towards northwestern part of Montana. At least that's where I pictured in my mind. Sorry I can't be further help. He told us this story quite a long time ago, but he told us he can never forget that creepy man on all fours just chasing after him. When we were younger, about age 16 in 2006, my best friend and I were watching Troy at his sister's apartment. The movie went well into the night, so I called my mom and asked if I could stay the night. She said it was cool. My buddy Jose was kind of a funny guy. He was a football player though, and very popular. I was a football player too, really just known as Jose's best friend. As we were getting ready for bed, about 2:30 a.m., we decided to call a party chat line and make our voices like girls who mess with creeper guys on it. We do our usual pranking, being completely obnoxious by making girl moaning sounds. We were laughing our butts off at the guys who would get ticked off that they got tricked by two kids. But all of a sudden our laughter stopped. We met a guy who was by himself in the party room. He asked, "Do you want to play a game?" Sounded like Jigsaw from Saw. We proceeded to talk crap to him when he asks again, "Do you want to play a game?" That very moment we agree, he starts screaming, "Hang up! Hang up! Hang up!" We had the phone on speaker, so it being loud scared us into hanging up. We looked at each other and laughed, and talked about how weird that was when the phone began to ring again. The number was restricted. I flipped open the phone and put it on speaker. Now we can play the game. The man's voice shot through the phone. My stomach, it felt like someone jabbed me with a handful of needles. I was scared. How did he get my number? It was a party line. Jose was a huge skeptic and starts to taunt the guy, telling him he doesn't scare us. The man says, "Jose, do you see that cat outside your window?" Because I do. We looked up and noticed a gray cat in his small backyard. Jose doesn't own any pets. We hung the phone up and ran to the living room, sitting on the couch, huddled up and shivering. The phone rings again. We left it in his room. The ringtone at the time was Justin Timberlake, "My Love," but because of the crappy download, the audio file was louder than it should have been and came off kind of distorted. The phone rang the entire night. We didn't go back to the room. We didn't even sleep. When his sister woke up, we walked into his room and noticed that the phone had died from all the ringing. He plugged in the charger. When the phone came back on, he had over 80 missed calls and 2 pictures. The pictures were of the backyard, looking to the room we were in, and a picture of our shoes on the front porch. To this day, we have no idea how that happened or who that was. This has scarred us for life. We never, ever talk on chat lines anymore, as we're just too scared of what creeps are out there looking to harm us. This is pretty much my only paranormal encounter, and I hope to never have another one again. It was my last year of high school, and the football team prepares a trip for the seniors to go on as a way of sending the team off before graduation. This year we decided we should go to a pretty popular amusement park a few hours from where we lived. This park is supposed to have the best roller coasters, man-made beach, pools, hot tubs, etc. And while I absolutely despise roller coasters, my friends convinced me to pay my share to go on this trip. We got to pick our roommates for the weekend, so I picked 2 of my best friends, and off we went. Everything was pretty normal when we got there. Our rooms weren't ready, and we walked around exploring, and sat on the sand by the man-made beach. We got our food, hung up at the pools, and the next day, we were up early for the rides. After an entire day of unwillingly riding roller coasters and walking, my friends met up with a few other groups of our friends, and they all decided that ghost hunting would be fun that night. Now, a little backstory. The hotel is rumored to be super haunted. Stories say that back in the day, a young teen couple were trying to commit suicide together, but that when they were both going to jump, the boy pushed the girl to her death, and to this day, if you stand by the stair railing where it happened, you can feel somebody pushing you. That night, we ventured up to the building where this legend takes place, and tried to go up to those same stairs. We made it as far as the 2nd floor, but the 3rd floor, where it all supposedly happened, was blocked off with a yellow caution tape. That's probably just a measure to keep stupid teens like us from getting up there and being disruptive. My friends took this as a confirmation that it really happened and it was dangerous to be up there. Despite of all my protest, we snuck under the caution tape and went up to the 3rd floor. Oddly enough, there was one small room. I'm talking so cramped that a group of 10 people could barely fit in there. There was a small desk facing a window, and the room was dark and eerie. My friend was in photography and started taking pictures of the room with his flash on. He grasped and showed us a couple pictures that he had some orbs and weird flashes of light in the room, places like that in the back. One kid even said he felt like they were being pushed. We all laughed and told them that they were full of crap and went back to our rooms since a couple of workers saw us up there and started yelling at us. Man, do I ever regret ghost hunting. That night, my 2 friends, the roommates, decided to go to the hot tub to meet with other people. I said I would shower and meet up with them later at the TGI Friday as I was down there. They left as I was trying to find an outfit to wear. About 10 minutes later, I hopped in the shower. Suddenly, I heard the door unlock itself multiple times. I started calling out to my friends. but there wasn't an answer. I quickly got out of the shower and peeked into the room, but there was no one there. I went back into the bathroom to continue my shower, and the door locked itself again. I tried to brush it off and just be done quickly. Suddenly, I went to reach for a bottle of shampoo, and all the bottles, soaps, body washes, they started flying at me, smacking me as if someone was throwing them. I was screaming and slapping bottles off me. I decided to finish up quick and get out. The rest of that night was normal, until it was around 3 a.m., and I started hearing loud thumps above me. But there was no one staying in the rooms above us since, for our trip, we had reserved the top 2 floors. Thumps got louder and wouldn't stop all night long, and almost sounded like they were inside the walls. A green glow was coming under the door crack from the hallway. I was super creeped out and started to fall asleep, and managed to get about an hour when I heard a loud thump. I walked up to find that the drawstring bag I had placed on the top of the chair and rested in the back of the chair was laying on the other side of the room on the floor. Just as I was about to get up and pick it up, my friend sat in the bed, looked me dead in the face with that sleepy, no one home look in his eyes and said, "I just wish she would stop hovering over me." And I said, "Who?" He pointed above our heads and said, "Him. He won't leave me alone. Tell him to stop hovering, please." And with that, he threw himself back in bed and peacefully slept the rest of that night. Needless to say, I didn't get much sleep that night, and my friend has no recollection of what happened the next day. Multiple other people have reported the glowing lights from the hallway the next day at breakfast. Hands down, one of the creepiest things that's ever happened to me. I will not be going back to that hotel ever again, and I will make sure that other people know of this story. That way they can avoid having the same encounter as I did. This is DJ Facepunch20 here, and usually I do sports content, but in honor of Halloween, I think I'm gonna start posting creepy stories. Yes, everybody loves this time of year. So please leave a like, a comment, and a subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video. Oh, and happy Halloween.